Hello and welcome to this very short video all about how to improve your IELTS score, especially around task 1. And for the session, we'll be going through some tips and advice that really will hopefully boost your score quite substantially, hopefully. So by the end of today's class, you will understand and avoid some of the common mistakes made during task 1. Here we are on task 1, which is where we need to describe some kind of infographic. And I've taken this directly from the IELTS website, the British Council IELTS website. For us to analyze a little bit, just to have a look at ways that we could give a clear answer. And what's really important straight away is that we follow the instructions. And I know that seems obvious, but believe me, a lot of candidates make that mistake. That they, for example, it says here, write at least 150 words, but candidates can write sometimes a lot more than that, and that of course will take time away from task 2 without giving you any more points. So I'm going to break them down and go through them one by one. So first of all, let's have a look at how we answer this. We get a description of the infographic first of all. So here it says that the graph below shows the proportion of 4 different materials that were recycled from 1982 to 2010 in a particular country. So there's a few things already here which we can work out. One of those being that it's highly likely we'll be using the past tense because the dates involved in 1982 and 2010. So we wouldn't be saying will, future tense, and we wouldn't be saying has, present tense, because, like I said, the dates are both in the past, so the time scale we're looking at is in the past. Okay, next up we get the actual question. So summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Now it's really important that you look at this in detail and you underline the key words, okay? Because the problem that a lot of candidates do is they straight away start describing the tiny details in this graph or in a process diagram or whatever it is that they're describing for task 1, and they go down into the tiniest details without even setting the scene. So that's really what I want to show you today. How do we avoid doing that? How do we give the marker what they need to see? So here we break down the question. So we've got summarize the information. All right, summarize the information. And typically, the way that we can do that quite nicely is by paraphrasing this description that's already given to us. So it's only a sentence that they give us usually, but we can paraphrase that, which means put it in our own words. And already we're getting a few marks for setting the scene, for explaining what the infographic is about. And I'll talk more in detail about these as we go through them in more detail on the following pages, okay? So don't feel that I'm going over these too quickly, okay? Don't worry if you think that. The second thing is selecting and reporting the main features. So again, students just go straight into looking at the tiniest details and, maybe going through these one at a time and describing how they may fluctuate, or how there's to begin with, there's an incline, then there's a decline, then there's an incline. The examiner's not interested in that, okay? You only have 150 words, right? So what you need to do is you need to look over this and look at overall trends. All right, and we'll look at those, as I said, in a few minutes. Finally, it asks us to make comparisons where relevant. So here, what we're doing is we're looking for the main differences in the data. Okay, so if there's anything strikingly different, if there's anything that stands out, and straight away, if we look at plastics, we can see plastics really stands out here as being this line at the bottom, the lowest amount of recycling. So it's straight away we can start to identify these things that stand out, okay? And that's what the examiner is looking for. So first thing, like I said, that we do is we summarize the information. So that's nice and easy. We just go to that first part. We reword the question in our own words. We paraphrase it, and we might also then want to give just a little bit more of a description, generally speaking. Okay. So what is the graph showing us overall? What are we looking at? What's on the x-axis? What's on the y-axis? What are the dates involved? What is the legend showing us? What is the key showing us? Okay, but we're only looking there for 2, maybe 3 sentences, just to give us an overall picture. Next thing that we need to do is this, obviously selecting and reporting the main features. Now this is where we go into more detail. So I'm just going to explain that very quickly. So selecting and reporting the main features, we look at the key trends. So overall, all recycling had increased between 1982 and 2010. So if we look overall, for each one of these materials, there has been an increase. In some instances, for example, plastics and paper and cardboard, that increase is very, very small. But nevertheless, there still is overall a general trend of increase amongst all of those materials. The biggest increase is in the aluminium cans, which we can see here. So we identify the most striking differences, and the smallest increase in recycling is down to, as I mentioned earlier, plastics, and that is closely followed by paper and cardboard, and then glass containers. Okay, so these are things that we can identify very quickly just by casting our eyes over the top of it. In some ways, we're simply skimming for detail here. We're simply skimming. Okay, so the next part of the question is to make comparisons where relevant. And again, like I mentioned earlier on, this is where we need to think about what stands out the most. Okay, what stands out the most? So to me, when I look at this briefly, I sort of just skim it. What stands out is that all of these, aluminium, glass and paper and cardboard, they all have quite high numbers compared to plastics, right? Plastic stands out the most. So I would really want to be mentioning that and discussing that. I'd also want to mention that most of them have a steady incline, right? So there's the key phrases that we have, a steady incline. But if we look at paper and cardboard, there's certainly an unusual sort of behavior here with this line, in that it goes up to 80 in 1994 percent, but then drops back down again. So what we're actually seeing that's different with paper and cardboard is that it increased up until 1994, but then it started to decline, which is different to the other 3 types of materials, right? These all have a slow incline, with aluminium obviously having a more of a rapid incline from 2002. So these are all the ways of describing the infographic in task one without going into this detail that is unnecessary. You don't need to describe every single bit of behavior on this line. We need to use those key phrases that you've heard time and time again, such as a steady incline, a steady decline, an overall trend, fluctuation or fluctuates, okay? And also vary your grammar, vary your nouns and your verbs. I'll do another video about grammatical requirements for task one, because what I really wanted to concentrate on here was all about sort of mistakes, common mistakes that students make, candidates make, sorry, when doing the IELTS task one. So hopefully you found this useful. If you want to have lessons with us, we have some really interactive, really fun lessons, which will really help you with IELTS. So if you would like any lessons with us, or to find out any more information, or to have a free lesson, we do offer one free lesson per person. So if you do want one free lesson, please let us know and just email thecourseranch@gmail.com. Thank you very much for your time, and yeah, look out for more videos. Thank you.